What happens when one of Hollywood's most intense and unpredictable actors sits down across from a morning show host who believes he can steer the conversation wherever he wants? What you're about to hear isn't just an interview, it's a live television showdown that spirals fast. And trust me, the way this unfolds will leave you stunned. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below, because what Tom Hardy does in this moment sparks a reaction no one saw coming. So picture this. Tom Hardy is seated across from George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. On the surface, everything looks polished and professional, but beneath it, the tension is almost visible. Hardy is there to promote his latest film, yet something feels off from the start. He's dressed in his signature low-key style, a simple black jacket, no flash, no theatrics. But there's something in his gaze that signals one thing clearly. He's not here to play games. And that's when the interview takes a turn. "Tom, thanks for being with us this morning," Stephanopoulos begins, wearing that familiar broadcast-ready smile. "Your new film is receiving incredible reviews. But I want to touch on something else first." Pause for a second. Did you catch that shift? Because Hardy did. He subtly adjusts in his chair, his jaw tightening and just enough to notice. "Sure, George," he replies evenly. "What's on your mind?" Stephanopoulos doesn't hesitate. "There's been controversy surrounding your comments about method acting and mental health. Some critics feel you've been irresponsible in how you approach your craft." And just like that, the atmosphere changes. The cameras capture it instantly. Hardy's eyes narrow, his expression hardens, and you can practically see the gears turning. This wasn't the conversation he agreed to. This wasn't a casual discussion, this was an ambush. "Irresponsible," Hardy repeats calmly. "But there's an unmistakable edge beneath the surface." "That's an interesting choice of word, George. Care to explain?" Stephanopoulos leans forward, confident, almost certain he's still in control. "Several mental health advocates have criticized interviews where you discuss entering dark psychological spaces for your roles. They claim you're glamorizing dangerous behavior." Hardy tilts his head slightly. "And you agree with them?" he asks, his Birmingham accent growing stronger as the temperature rises. "I'm asking the questions here, Tom," Stephanopoulos pushes back. "What would you say to parents worried about young actors following your example?" And then, silence. Hardy locks eyes with him. Seconds pass. On live television, it feels like an eternity. The studio goes dead quiet. You can sense it. Something is about to explode. "Parents should be concerned," Hardy finally says, measured and deliberate, "about morning show hosts who do zero research before ambushing guests with loaded questions built on secondhand gossip." That smile on Stephanopoulos' face? It cracks, just for a moment. "Tom, that's not fair," he says. "We're just trying to have an honest conversation." "Honest?" Hardy lets out a short laugh, sharp and humorless. "George, if you wanted an honest conversation, you would have raised this with my publicist. You would have done actual research instead of reading talking points off a teleprompter, but that's not what this is, then, is it?" The tension now is undeniable. "Our viewers deserve to hear your response to these legitimate concerns," Stephanopoulos insists. "And your viewers," Hardy fires back, still controlled but visibly heated, "deserve better than tabloid nonsense disguised as journalism." Now the storm is fully formed. "Tell me something, George," Hardy continues. "When was the last time you studied method acting? When did you speak to qualified mental health professionals about the therapeutic value of exploring difficult emotions in a structured professional environment?" Stephanopoulos is clearly shaken, but instead of retreating, he presses harder. "Tom, you're being defensive." "Defensive?" Hardy repeats, genuine disbelief in his voice. "I woke up before dawn to talk about a film I care deeply about. Instead, you tried to manufacture a gotcha moment using quotes stripped of context. That's not defensiveness." He pauses. "That's having standards." "Well, Stephanopoulos says, grasping for footing. The quotes speak for themselves. Do they? Hardy responds instantly. Then quote them. Right now, word for word. Which interview? Which journalist? Which exact sentence do you find so dangerous? The silence returns, heavier this time. Stephanopoulos glances down at his notes, then back up. There have been several interviews where you discussed your intense preparation methods. Several interviews, Hardy repeats slowly. But you can't name a single one. You can't cite the publication, the writer, or the words themselves, can you? And right there, on live television, the power in the room shifts completely. Tom, I think we're getting off track here. No, George. Hardy replies without hesitation. I think we're finally on track. And that's the moment you realize this interview is no longer under control. You've accused me of being irresponsible, Hardy continues, his voice steady but razor-sharp. You've suggested I might be influencing young actors in dangerous ways, yet you can't even tell me what I supposedly said. That's not journalism, mate. That's character assassination built on hearsay. The camera cuts back to Stephanopoulos, and for the first time, his polished composure begins to crack. You can see it in his eyes and the stiffness of his posture. I have the information right here in my notes, he insists. Then read it, Hardy fires back instantly. Read the exact quote that has you so concerned about my influence. Now comes the scramble. Stephanopoulos shuffles his papers, fumbling just enough for the audience to notice. A thin sheen of sweat appears on his forehead. The specific quote isn't as important as the overall pattern of statements. The specific quote isn't important? Hardy cuts in, his voice rising for the first time. George, you've just spent 5 minutes questioning my professional integrity over something you claim I said. And now you're telling me the words don't matter? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Hardy presses. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you brought me on this show under false pretenses just to ambush me with accusations you can't even clearly explain. At this point, the tension in the studio is thick enough to feel. Crew members exchange nervous looks in the background. Camera operators hesitate, unsure whether to keep rolling or prepare for a sudden cut to commercial. Sensing the chaos, Stephanopoulos tries to retreat to safer ground. Tom, let's talk about your new film. The character deals with some heavy themes. No, Hardy interrupts firmly. We're not done here. And suddenly, this isn't an interview anymore. It's an interrogation, and Hardy is the one asking the questions. You just spent several minutes attacking my professional methods based on research you clearly haven't done, he says. You owe your viewers an explanation. I think we should move on. I think you should answer, Hardy snaps back. You mentioned mental health advocates who are supposedly concerned about my influence. Name one. Just one person who has publicly criticized my approach. Stephanopoulos shifts in his chair. There have been several articles. Several articles, Hardy repeats slowly, leaning forward. But no names, no quotes, no actual criticism you can point to. Then comes the twist. Do you realize you're doing exactly what you're accusing me of? Hardy asks. You're potentially damaging someone's reputation based on vague, unverified claims. That's not the same thing at all. Isn't it? Hardy challenges. You've just told millions of viewers that mental health advocates think I'm irresponsible. You've suggested parents should worry about my influence, yet you can't provide a single piece of evidence. The camera lingers on Stephanopoulos, now visibly flustered. Our producers research these topics, he says defensively. Your producers, Hardy repeats almost sadly. Let me ask you something, George. How long have you been in journalism? That's not relevant. I think it's very relevant, Hardy says coldly. Because what you're doing right now isn't journalism. It's gossip. And it's exactly the kind of lazy, irresponsible reporting that gives real journalists a bad name. Stephanopoulos' face turns red. I don't appreciate your tone. And I don't appreciate being ambushed on live television by someone who couldn't be bothered to fact-check, Hardy fires back. But here we are. We invited you here as a guest. You invited me here to talk about my work, Hardy replies, then immediately launched into an attack based on information you can't even verify. That's not hosting, George. That's entrapment. The studio audience is completely silent now, watching this unravel in real time. You can practically feel the panic behind the cameras. Tom, I think you're overreacting. Hardy lowers his voice, and somehow it becomes even more intimidating. Overreacting, he says quietly. You've accused me of harming young actors. You've implied I'm irresponsible with mental health. You've painted me as a bad influence, wussy, without a single shred of evidence. He pauses. So tell me, George, how exactly would you like me to react? These are legitimate questions about celebrity responsibility. Based on what? Hardy snaps. Show me the study. Show me the expert opinion. Show me anything beyond your producer's interpretation of what someone might have said about something I might have done. And in that moment, the power dynamic is completely shattered. Live on national television. Stephanopoulos glances down at his notes again, buying time. These concerns have been raised in various media outlets. Various media outlets, Hardy repeats slowly. George, do you hear yourself right now? You sound like a politician dodging a corruption scandal. Various sources say. People are concerned. It's been reported. Those are weasel words, mate. That's how people talk when they don't actually have facts. I'm not making anything up. Then prove it, Hardy says instantly. Right now, on air, show me one specific example of what you're talking about. And once again, the silence stretches. Painfully long in television time. Stephanopoulos shuffles his papers, looks toward the cameras, then back at Hardy. Tom, I think we're spending too much time on this. We're spending exactly the right amount of time on this, Hardy fires back. You made serious accusations about my professional character, and now you're trying to walk away the moment I ask you to support them. That's not how this works. Nobody's running away from anything. Then stop deflecting, Hardy says. One name, one quote, one piece of real evidence for any claim you've made. Now Stephanopoulos is visibly sweating. Our research team compiled information from multiple sources, he says. Your research team, Hardy repeats slowly. Compiled information. George, that's not an answer. That's corporate speak. You're hiding behind your producers the same way you're hiding behind anonymous critics and vague concerns. I'm not hiding behind anything. Then take responsibility, Hardy replies. Either admit you don't have the information to back this up, or provide it. You can't have it both ways. The camera catches Stephanopoulos glancing off-screen, clearly looking toward his producers, almost begging for a lifeline. Tom, I think our viewers would prefer to hear about your new film. Our viewers deserve better than this, Hardy says firmly. They deserve hosts who do real research instead of ambushing guests with tabloid rumors. They deserve journalists who can support their questions with facts, not anonymous sources and slippery language. You're being very aggressive. I'm being precise, Hardy responds. There's a difference. You came at me with serious accusations, and now you're upset that I'm holding you accountable. That's not aggression, George. That's responsibility. The studio audience is completely transfixed, uncomfortable, silent, aware they're witnessing something that was never meant to happen on a cheerful morning show. Stephanopoulos tries one last time to regain control. Tom, let's try to have a productive conversation. We could have had one, Hardy says, unwavering, if you'd started with honest questions about my work instead of manufactured controversy designed to go viral. But you chose this path. So let's finish it. Desperate to salvage the moment, Stephanopoulos makes a final attempt. Tom, I understand you're passionate, but surely you can agree that celebrities have a responsibility when speaking publicly about sensitive topics. Hardy stares at him for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is calm, but it cuts through the studio like a blade. Absolutely, George. Celebrities have a responsibility, just like journalists have a responsibility to their audience. Just like morning show hosts have a responsibility to prepare properly. Just like network television has a responsibility to maintain basic standards of integrity. I think we maintain very high standards here. Do you? Hardy asks quietly. Because right now, your audience is watching you make claims you can't support, ask questions you didn't research, and dodge accountability when challenged. Is that the high standard you're talking about? The camera lingers on Stephanopoulos' face, and for the first time, he's completely unraveling. Tom, you're being incredibly difficult. Difficult, Hardy repeats, disbelief flashing across his face. You ambushed me with false accusations on live television? And I'm difficult for asking you to back them up? What exactly did you think was going to happen? I expected a professional conversation. Then you should have behaved professionally, Hardy fires back. You should have done your homework. You should have prepared real questions, not tabloid gotcha nonsense. Stephanopoulos looks around the studio, visibly panicked now, hoping someone, anyone, will cut to commercial and end the nightmare unfolding live on air. Tom, I think we need to wrap this up. Oh, now you want to wrap it up? Hardy fires back immediately. After you've spent 10 minutes attacking my professional integrity based on absolutely nothing? After implying to millions of viewers that I'm a dangerous influence on young actors? Now you want to move on? We have limited time, Stephanopoulos says weakly. We had limited time when you chose to waste it on manufactured controversy instead of discussing my actual work, Hardy responds. That was your choice, George. You decided this is how you wanted to spend our time together. The studio is completely silent now, save for the low hum of the cameras. Crew members stand frozen, unsure whether to intervene. This interview has fully derailed. Tom, I'm going to ask you one more time to please tone it down. Tone it down? Hardy's voice drops. Quieter, sharper, more intense. George, you just attacked my professional reputation on your show, and now you're telling me to tone it down. Do you have any idea how insulting that is? I'm trying to keep this civil. Civil? Hardy lets out a bitter laugh. There's nothing civil about ambushing a guest with unsubstantiated accusations. There's nothing civil about making claims you can't support. And there's nothing civil about damaging someone's reputation for ratings. Stephanopoulos is sweating heavily now, his polished host persona completely gone. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Hardy demands. Explain it, to me and to your viewers. Explain why you brought me here under false pretenses. Explain why you thought it was acceptable to accuse me of serious misconduct without basic fact-checking. Explain why repeating gossip suddenly qualifies as journalism. We're asking important questions about celebrity influence. No, Hardy says firmly. You're manufacturing controversy where none exists. You're creating drama for television. And when you're challenged, you hide behind vague phrases like celebrity responsibility and important questions. The camera shows Stephanopoulos looking defeated, but Hardy isn't finished. George, let me ask you something. Do you have children? That's not relevant. I think it is, Hardy replies. Do you have children who might watch this interview? Children who might learn from how you conduct yourself professionally? Tom, please. What lesson are they learning right now? Hardy presses. That it's okay to make accusations without evidence? That ambushing people with misinformation is journalism? That when you're exposed, you can just ask everyone to calm down and move on? Stephanopoulos looks off camera again, clearly begging for help. Tom, I think we should take a break. A break? Hardy leans forward slightly. You don't get to take a break from accountability. You don't get to make serious accusations and then walk away when asked to justify them. Security, Stephanopoulos suddenly calls out. And in that instant, everything explodes. Security? Hardy says in disbelief. You're calling security because I asked you to back up your own questions with facts? This is unbelievable. The camera catches security guards beginning to approach the set. Hardy shakes his head slowly. This, he says, now turning directly to the camera, is what modern journalism looks like. When a journalist is challenged for poor research and baseless accusations, they call security instead of admitting they're wrong. Tom, you need to calm down, one guard says. Calm down? Hardy looks at the guard, then back at Stephanopoulos. I'm sitting in my chair, speaking clearly, asking for basic journalistic standards. What exactly am I supposed to calm down from? Stephanopoulos has completely lost control now. Remove him from the set. On what grounds? Hardy asks calmly. For expecting evidence? For asking you to do your job professionally? As security moves closer, Hardy stands up slowly and deliberately. This is remarkable, he says. Absolutely remarkable. I came here to discuss my work, and I'm being escorted out for demanding basic integrity. He turns to the camera one final time. Remember this moment, Hardy says. This is what happens when you ask for accountability in modern media. And with that, Tom Hardy walks off the set under his own power, leaving Stephanopoulos frozen in his chair, the audience stunned into silence, and television history made. The camera lingers on Stephanopoulos for a few seconds longer. His hands shake as he gathers his papers, struggling to regain composure before the broadcast abruptly cuts to what can only be an unplanned commercial break. So, what did you think of that brutal exchange? Tom Hardy didn't just defend himself. He exposed the shallow, tabloid-driven mechanics of modern morning television in real time. Subscribe for more breakdowns of moments when celebrities refuse to play the game. And drop a comment below telling me which part of Hardy's takedown hit the hardest.